You are at the opera's balcony. Bells are ringing, a first warning to the second act of Gluck's Orfeo ed Eurydice. But more so, it's a signal. It suggests you sever the conversation you are having right now. He jumps from recounting the beauty of the mournful sinfonia upon the initial curtain rise, and now he's talking about something else. Eggs. Once I had this dream where I wrote the same story 10 years apart, he murmurs. I'd write it once age 15, then go back and rewrite it age 25. He pauses dramatically. But then I realized how nonsensical that would be in practice. I mean, who would read a story and then a better one? Why have scrambled eggs and then be presented with the yolkiest poached egg you've ever seen? It's a poor hard-boiled attempt of a sunny-sided, introspective vignette. Nonetheless, he convinces you of his magnetism. Didactic, prophetic, hypnotic, attempting to write the interplay between past and present. You encourage him. You like it when he shares things with you. Confronted by your two reflections in the ocean, you celebrate and question this moment of platonic intimacy. You don't miss the silliness in comparing the sizes of your palms from when you were children, do you? But you do, don't you? What would happen if you told him you loved him? Eggs. A Freudian nightmare of a metaphor. Perhaps his retelling of a dream is an opening, an invitation to submit to a romantic impulse. Is this how he wants you to see his story? Maybe you're reading too deeply, for all eggs are is their whites and their yolks. But to belie their intrinsic contents, to forget its shell and its chalaza and vitelline membranes, to overlook it, it's a betrayal by the least. Oh, but you traitor! You self-acclaimed pragmatist appreciator, to act upon this, pinning your faith in quixotic rom-com nonsense. Don't let it convince you that it's a moment waiting to happen. But hair doesn't blow like that in the wind. What an awful Newtonian deception. You're making it worse by lying to yourself. You know you want to give in, to run your hands through its jet black, greasy softness and grab a hold of it, and press your body against. The second bell tolls, niggling and impatient. 5 minutes. What a god-awful noise. He could want this all or nothing at all. Is this kismet or an act of cruel, fateless, wicked trickery? In its cunning frying pan of oily deception, your decision stares back at you, teasing with the possibility of a crispy, sunny side up. Watching the blue expanse which unfolds before you, you feel him looking. You imagine his two little beady eyes, mundane in its darkness, ordinary in every right. But what about now? Made your mind up yet? You struggle to decide. If you look back, you will give in. Eye contact is your Achilles heel. You try to keep yourself grounded within the blue expanse in front of you. In its beauty, you revere the ocean for all its mystery. The pearlescent brightness of the moon is gilded in its pretty, supple waves, and a faint, yolky, lunate glow traces the horizon. A reminder that this moment is coming to a close. The final bell will toll soon. You meditate in its presence, thinking to yourself, you'd never be sad again if you lived by the sea. Nothing else can be as beautiful as this, you whisper. There's something magnetic in the way the ocean moves. With its ebb and flow, you let it swallow you in and seduce you. But then, mistakenly, you look further down, past its shiny luminescence, past your reflection, past the faint shadow of a swimming fish, and wonder properly for the first time what is beneath it. You panic, because all you can see is darkness. You've been deceived by the way the surface of the sea sparkles, and now you begin to fear what lies at the bottom of it all. locomotive graveyards, felled military vessels, sunken civilizations. The beauty of the rippling, shining surface has silenced the macabre. But now you cannot help but think about the submerged figures at the bottom, the unheard screams and the fricative gasps of stubborn sorrow, dying a gradual death. And as the sun finally disappears from the face of the horizon, the final bell tolls.
"You want to go on an adventure?" she asked, her eyes shimmering. Looking at me like that, how could I say no? My stomach rumbled at the bag of McDonald's in her hand. "When did you go to Macca's?" Maria laughed, holding the bag up higher. "This? Mum just dropped it off." Somehow, even in a stupidly pretentious band uniform for a government school, she looked so cool. I mean, she was barefaced, still stunning as ever, and somehow even managed to make her tight ponytail look stylish despite how bald it made everyone else look. "Come help me fix up my makeup, then we'll eat." "Won't the food get cold?" My eyebrows furrowed, groaning internally at the thought of cold chips. "Don't worry," Maria winked. "I have my ways." How does she do it? Prepare so well without effort. She sets the bag down onto the counter, and I uncurl the top to sneak out a chip, surprised to find 2 small heat packs keeping the food warm. That's why it looks slightly heavier than normal. And somehow, the chip's still got a crunch to it. "Hey," Maria swats away my hand. "That's for later." I grin, turning to swing myself up onto the counter, my legs dangling off the side as I watch her apply touch-ups to her makeup. Her brand new phone sits cleanly beside her makeup bag, the screen lighting up as she gets a notification. Her lock screen? A pink sunset at the beach. Not as if I really expected anything too different, but what catches my eye are how many messages she has. Self-consciously, I pull my phone out of the pocket of my navy blue skirt. No new notifications. Thanks, social life. "Zoe, babe, try this lip gloss." My face whips up, gaze set straight on the coral-coloured matte tube in her hand, the lid coming off with a pop, and even from here I can see the sparkles on the tip of the wand applicator. "Why?" I tease, feigning disinterest. "It's stupid. It's lip gloss. I'm craving some form of attention, acknowledgement of my words." "Because it's pretty and smells nice, obviously," Maria said. I lean forward towards her. Our faces just barely apart, and I can't tear my eyes from hers as she focuses hard on my lips, watching as the lip gloss is applied so delicately to my lips. I know if I wanted to, I could lean forward and kiss her, grasp her chin and tilt it up to face me, her hands in my hair with our bodies flushed together. But that's not how it works, is it? I mean, don't get me wrong, really. I'm not like into her or anything. I love Maria. She's like the best friend I have in the band. Yeah, we don't really speak outside the band, but I'm not gonna fuck up that friendship by having some big old lesbian crush on her, especially when she's straight. And as soon as it started, the moment's over. She pulls away, gesturing at me to rub my lips together. I feel the coating rub against my skin, the way it so strongly smells of fairy floss, and Maria's got the most satisfied smile on her face. Laughter, the doors to the bathroom opening to find a group of girls entering the room, and the rose-tinted glasses shatter. The atmosphere shifts. "Hey, Maria," one calls, looking at the brown-haired girl with some form of admiration. Suddenly, it's far too stuffy, and I have to get out of this room. Have the walls always been this close? This bold colour of pink? Were these girls all holding phones when they entered? Was the fluorescent lighting always this bright? "Sorry, excuse me," I mumble, walking quickly towards the entrance, exiting the bathroom with my throat feeling tight. I slide down the wall beside the door, breathing heavily. In and out, in and out, in and out. The door opens again, my breathing levels. I look up with a polite smile on my face to find Maria looking at me. "You okay?" I shrug. "Those girls are a bit..." She laughs, the way one side of her lips tilts up slightly higher than the other, rolling her eyes. They reek of alcohol. Band kids, really? Who knew, huh? I don't want to speak. I know how often the band kids do the popular stuff in the confinements of a lack of social media posts. How they're not really as uptight as the films. But I'm not going to talk. Not when she finds it that amusing. The cold air of the night greets my face with tiny prickles of cold as I exit out of the main, newly rebuilt school building. In front of me lies the arts department, a kind of ring shape with a courtyard in the centre, artistic graffiti lining the walls and floors. Not as if the artistic shit is any good though. I start moving over to 602, typically unlocked and warm, assuming that's where she was heading. "Where are you going?" Maria asked, already on the outdoor stairs to make her way up to the language classrooms. I chase after her, following her up the blue concrete stairs, thinking, right, sure, we're probably less likely to get caught up in these rooms. I had no idea they were unlocked. But she hands me the brown bag of food, still incredibly hot, and hooks her leg over the blue painted metal railing, hanging on with both hands as her other foot crosses over. And, peering over the railing, I watch as she steps over to the rooftop of the classroom, barely a care in the world. Holy shit. "Pass me the food," Maria called, running her hand through her hair, blowing around slightly in the light wind. I don't even think, I just do. I lean over, the food just out of my grasp and suddenly into hers. She tilts her head towards the railing, and I know what I have to do. And I know I'm terrified in these heels, but she did it too, and it's not even that bad of a drop anyway. I hike up my long skirt, holding onto the railing for dear life as I slowly extend my foot over and down onto the excess floor past the railing. There's barely any, my foot hangs over slightly. I turn it sideways to fit better and take a deep breath before hiking over the other leg, and suddenly I'm completely standing behind the railing. Maria looks so proud, extending her hand out for me to grab. My foot first, a step onto the roof, her warm, smooth, soft hand holding mine, and with a slight leap, I join her. She hugs me, tight. "Look at you go! Always knew you had it in you." Pulling away, I can just smell her. Her. There is no kind of cliche scent. She doesn't smell of lavenders or roses or honey or any of that bullshit. She smells warm and comforting, and it's just this really nice smell that I cannot put into words for the life of me. We walk over to the roof. I can see almost the whole school from here. The trees way past us, hiding so much from the rest of the town, and the nearby houses, their yellow glow in the far distance. And, in the background, faintly, the music from the concert, the one we're supposed to be watching. "Sit," Maria said. I turn, seeing her pat the cold ground beside her. Mac is already sitting in front of her. The one and only time I'm grateful for these god-awful long skirts is now, being able to tuck it into my legs to preserve warmth, and she passes me a cheeseburger. "How does it still taste as good as when it's first bought?" "How many times have you been up here?" I laughed, taking a bite. "I saw some guys come up here one time. Thought it would be fun to do." "You've never done this before?" "Nope." I shake my head, trying to hide the smile on my lips. From the corner of my eye, I see her lay down, staring up at the sky, and awkwardly copy my head on the hot cold rooftop. Maria is so pretty. Her brown eyes so filled with wonder, freckles peppering her cheeks. Even in the cold weather, with her nose pink in the dim light, she's gorgeous. It's like she knows. She always knows. And she's turned to face me in that instant. Somehow, in a blur of time and stars, there is no food left, completely consumed, and it's just us. I'm shivering, not sure if just from the cold or from the way she's watching me, but God, I'm scared. Maria reaches out, tucking some stray hairs behind my ear, her palm continuing down to cup my cheek delicately. Thump, thump, thump. It's frozen. Everything is frozen. I cannot feel the wind, for it has frozen. I cannot hear the music, for it has frozen. And by God, I cannot move, for I am frozen. But Maria is not frozen. Maria has all this life and warmth radiating out of her, and her hand falls. She sits up, grabbing my wrist, and I fall into her lap. An awkward shared laugh. I have no clue what's going on. I'm embarrassed and cold, but she smiles so fondly. I try to move back, thinking she just wants to sit, maybe talk some more, but she pulls me back and, in the whirl of everything, manages to hold my face in her hands. "Oh," I whisper. She's looking at my lips, back to my eyes, some form of approval, a yes. I nod tentatively, my heart in my throat, my eyes fluttering shut as she tilts my face to the left and hers to the right. I wrap my arms around her neck and we kiss. It's sweet. Her breath tastes of Macca's, which arguably in itself is gross. But I can taste the FAIRYFLOSS lip gloss, and her lips are so soft. And she holds me so delicately I feel like I might just break. I'm not even thinking, it's just Maria, 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 a mantra in my head as I wrap my legs around her waist for further leverage as we continue to kiss. I don't feel frozen, weak, alone, any of that. Right now, in this moment, I feel warm, so warm and loved. I always knew Maria had stars in her eyes, but I never expected to taste them on her lips. She pulls away. It's gone too fast. Her cheeks are flushed, but she looks happy. A little nervous, but happy. Is that okay? She asks, dropping her hands from my face, opting to rather hold my torso. I nod, my eyes shut. Perfect. Maria giggles, tilting her head towards mine to bump our noses. I'd wanted to do that for a while, she whispered. My shoulders drop at the intimate confession. Really? After all this time of, oh no, she's straight, she wanted to kiss me? I hate how oblivious I can really be sometimes. Can we do it again? I feel her nod against me, and we kiss again. 100 times more. Enough to leave my lips slightly swollen and my lungs breathless. And when we're done, her head on my lap as she checks her phone, I can't help but imagine what this means. Holding hands in public? Sleepovers full of kissing? Dates at the cinema and restaurants? Me meeting her family, her friends? I look down, see her on some social media site, the way it's full of all these different people, and remember how vastly different we really are. We don't match interest-wise. She's so popular and nice and has like 1,000 followers on social media. I don't have that life. And then she's liking some post about my favorite TV show, and I remember she's not really all that different. She's still as much of a nerd as me, just has a better social life. Fuck, she shoots up, almost knocking me with her head in the process. What? She shakes her head, sending a quick text message. James just messaged me. We've got 10 minutes until we perform, Maria said. Oh, fuck. Alright then. Stuffing the empty bag into her pocket without as much of a care at all, Maria takes a jump, leaping into the garden below with less than a thud. No scratches or uniform rips, and I remember how low the building really is. I'm not taking any chances. I make my way back to the building, climbing over with ease, and begin to run down the stairs without haste. The warmth of the main building engulfs me, my whole body shivering at the temperature difference, but I'm not slowing anytime soon. We rush to the classrooms, giddy smiles on our faces as we search for our instruments. My violin, her cello. Even without slowing, the crinkled bag is tossed into the bin, not missing despite her continuous movement. And when we reach our bandmates, completely breathless, we still somehow have time for Maria to touch up her cheeks in lip gloss. Bright pink, FAIRYFLOSS flavored. I can smell it from here. It's heavenly. There's nothing but a slight stern look from Richard, our conductor, and we're walking through the doors into the auditorium. It's lit up and bright despite being a measly school concert, and there's a curtain hiding us from the audience. I'm seated at the far left of the stage with the violins. From here I can see Maria. She's too distracted with placing her cello stand into the donut, but she's so pretty. The curtains rise, clapping, echoing throughout the room, and butterflies are eating up my intestines. Her eyes are plastered towards me, and I know it now, that this is really happening. She kissed me, I kissed her. I'm here, playing the most meaningless song ever, irrelevant to anything in time and space, because I'm looking at her, and she is so beautiful.
The tide rose. The ebbing tide closed in. The tempestuous tide rolled onto the golden sand. It's hard to decide where to stop for that Goldilocks authenticity. Authenticity. The notion that a thing or a being is unique and original, the opposite of imitation. The writer is the fairy godmother that dresses up banal phrases to imitate the complexity of authentic experiences. Long descriptive passages devoid of real meaning and possessing a particular deadness that reveals itself when the clock strikes. She's still an amateur at this art, like a newborn Pinocchio. Seawater drenched her sandals, leaving that slimy field beneath her feet. Tactile imagery develops authenticity. As she strolled on in the sand, a cave came into sight. A long time ago, she would have ran towards it, urged on by the boundless curiosity of a child. Now she knew curiosity killed the cat. A cliched proverb, humorous at least. The puppeteer would disagree. She laid down her pen and scrunched up the paper. Unoriginal language, overused setting, unnamed character, slow opening. They weren't like that. Fast forward. She stood at the edge of the cave, shining her torch onto the dark walls. Or maybe she didn't. Maybe she turned around and returned to her car and spent the rest of the humid afternoon on the congested road. Why did she have a torch in the first place? Oh well, she needed a story. She went in. The cold bit into her skin. She felt scared. Objection! The writer has directly told the character's emotion. You have breached the law of show not tell. Would a real person ever have their feelings written in words on their face? The writer is hereby charged with inauthenticity. She tried again. In the darkness, the deafening silence sent a chill down her spine. By using stale metaphors and idioms, you save mental effort at the cost of partially concealing meaning not only for your reader but for yourself. What made the silence deafening? Was it really cold or was she scared? Why did she go in the end? As a rule, characters must always have authentic motivations for their actions. But do real people? The strings tugged from above. Is it the beauty that drew her in? The marbled walls arched over the sand, a canvas for ocean's hands. The cave seemed to come alive as she stepped inside. Crystal linings winked from above, damp, salty air embraced her. Inside the rocky mouth echoed the song of the ocean. A beam of sunlight showered her in warmth. Objection! The writer has presented a contradiction. You previously established that the cave is dark and silent, now there's light and music. Nor do crystals grow on the beach. You must draw from experience and conduct extensive research to construct a believable setting. The writer is hereby charged with inauthenticity. She tries again after visiting Google. The cave was 2.4 meters tall and 4 meters wide. Humidity 78%. Wind speed 40 kilometers an hour. Source Wikipedia. She entered. Objection. The author has presented an unrealistic narrative world. How do you propose the character had a ruler and hygrometer and anemometer to accurately measure out the cave? You must show the characteristics of the setting through language to paint an image in the reader's mind, not report statistics. The writer is hereby charged with inauthenticity. She tries again after browsing the thesaurus. Inside, each moment was an iridescent bubble fresh blown from the lips of some quixotic wind. Exaggerated, nonsensical concoctions of words intended to possess abstract complexity that feigns the authenticity of human emotions but really derive from a complete lack of thought and consequently possessing of no real meaning. Nobody has enough creativity nowadays. Maybe it is safer to recycle the ready-made phrases and cliches. White as snow, quiet as a mouse. Or does that allow the reader to be lazy, where they can ascertain the meaning without visualizing the language and pondering the writer's intention? Indeed, mental shortcuts erode the real thinking needed to develop authenticity. Let's move on. She lifts the sole of her right foot 10 centimeters off the ground and turns her head at a 45 degrees angle, peering over her shoulder to the entrance of the cave 2 meters back. She holds her torch angled at the ground in front. Then she turns back around. She inhales deeply. She hesitantly lifts her right toes. She shifts her center of gravity forward. She drops her foot to the ground. Take a breath. Over-description isn't just boring. It's an attempt to control the reader's imagination. She took a step. That's it. When you're so desperate to force-feed the exact image in your mind into the reader's mind, the overwhelming quantity of superfluous details distracts from the focus, because real people don't think like that. You remind the reader of the fiction, so you yank them out of the literary world. You fail to capture the authenticity of human thought. The torch flickered and dimmed. Her hands reached out into the darkness. There were no strings to grasp. She asked herself again, what do I want to say? What words will express it? What language to use to construct the scene? Is the image relatable enough to evoke authentic emotions? She could turn back, leave the cave, start again. She can build her personality, her past, her drive to the beach. Maybe she's a Year 12 student that ran away from school to escape from exams. Maybe she's on vacation after quitting her job as an English teacher. This time she will have character and connections and complexity and conflict. Yes, that was the missing thing. An endless path stretches before her. A story without a conflict to resolve never ends. She should stop, turn around, go back, and build an authentic character with an authentic conflict. Or she could go deeper. In the darkness, images flashed across the walls. Memories of sun-soaked days spent on the beach, the burning sand beneath her feet, running through arching caves, climbing on rocks, splashing waves, laughter. Flashbacks should be used sparingly, following a trigger in a smooth transition, with the primary purpose to reveal a past emotional conflict that affects the character. What's the conflict? The tides rose, swallowing the cave. The images disappeared. She disappeared. She never existed. Only ever a shadow of a life in the writer's imagination, aborted before birth. But who killed her? Was it the writer, or the strings that bound the writer? One more abandoned puppet. An incomplete construction is like plunging into a dark cave. You enter seeking the way to Wonderland. Perhaps you stand at the intersection to infinite worlds, but without signposts, you remain lost in the dark. She should have turned back after all.
All life is the televised agonistic conflict between the viewers and the viewed. We are the manufactured, producing pixel art, watching the screen while we watch ourselves, the reproduced and the production. While the organic embryo is but a conception of singularity, a single-celled union of the seminal, the growth of the pixel ideal is multifoliate and divine, 1,000 independent forms operating in flux, not spawned from the mother cell, but self-actualized, standalone compartments of sentience, all identical in their individuality. It is a performative, dereistic exercise in platonic self-inception, whereby we project ourselves onto forms on screen, subject and object, televised to our own minds, living vicariously through the fourth wall and the two-dimensional image. We are blipping black sinkholes in the false bottom of the universe. We are the square-eyed screen hypnotists of the new age. We are the athlete pioneers of the starry space race, the minds of our generation. When I was younger, I wanted to be an astronaut. I would jet set off on my great sponsored space rocket to cheering fans and come top of the class at rocket school. My classmates dreamed the pathetic 200 meters while I ran the space race. They followed the lunar calendar. I counted light years and raced relativity. Tin men in foil hats apparated in my room at night, gushing radiostatic revelation, aluminium icon emissaries of the messianic, frequency garble on the radio transmitter, hello from the void. I dreamed I would be famous, my image projected for mass pixel production on the light-up TV screens, pioneering boy hero of the space cinema complex. Intergalactic warriors of the frontiers of space-time, broadcast live and phenopoeic, direct current into the viewer brain. I had dreams in pixelated cartoon episodes of numinous blue light vision, a few crackling seconds of Voyage dans la Lune and a whipping banner with the American flag. Particles speed up and are excited near the sound barrier. My module makes a landing, the hatch opens up, and out I step onto the stellar stage, a space odyssey on the TV screen, me on the mothership, extraterrestrial, me on the film reel, larger than life. My father watched old movies with the sound turned down when he thought we were asleep, living through the digital image, portal of nostalgia and space-time. Maybe I'm losing my mind, but it feels like the whole world revolves around me somehow. It's a lot of world for one man, Truman. Sure that's not wishful thinking? I calculated manic and mathematic potentialities, transported to the dream world its optics and revolutions, telescopic gyrations and incalculable wavelengths, all elating with the caterwauls of the syncopated human schema. Since the beginning of recorded time, man has been inquiring to the stars to determine his share of the local heavens. Ever since he was a boy, Neil McCarthy has dreamed of living in space. Now, at 41, he has finally had his dreams answered by Space Ace 190. One of thousands of applicants for the show, Neil was part of the lucky few shortlisted for the program back in 2119, which involved sending a privileged team of candidates up into space under the inaugural colonization initiatives. 20 years on, Neil is a national hero. This episode commemorates McCarthy's formative years in the Force and his estimable inauguration as real-life plutocrat and space president-elect. Through the troubles, the hardship, and the trauma, we bring to you live and unexpurgated footage from the life and times of Neil McCarthy. Oh, I love my life on the Crusader. It's more than a job, it's a lifestyle. It's a noble lifestyle. Now, McCarthy's name is synonymous with fame, fortune, and the stellar colonization of the universe. Let's take a look at some of that early footage. And I mean, really, our aim is to overtake and outstrip the exploratizing countries, and we have been making great progress. Even our enemies are forced to admit that the successes are substantial, and they really are very great. So, what brought you to this? My calling, you mean? I'm not sure. I guess I've always had an affinity for space. You know, the great variable, what is to become of life out there. And of course this arises out of a concern, a kind of concern for the life and health of it, which I think in some ways is indelible from the life and the health of the company too. Some of our comrades have become dizzy with success and for the moment have lost clearness of mind. It's becoming increasingly important, especially now more than ever, not to lose perspective, not to forget why we started on this grand venture. I guess you could say I've always had a calling for it, for space, and for its preservation. When I heard about the first moon landings, I was mesmerized. Now, your current foundation, Stars Without Borders, what does that do? Essentially, the aim of the organization is to preserve the natural beauty of the interplanetary ecosystems. A lot of these locations are abundant in natural resources, so it's important that we remember that while we may be using and taking from that environment, that we are also reinvesting, giving back. My ultimate grand vision is to help build a sustainable future where we have enough living space to provide for our children, our parents' parents. It's about making a home for all the generations, creating a legacy for those who have come before and those we leave behind. Now McCarthy, darling of the space universe, has become the spokesman for a whole generation of revolutionary young hopefuls, aspiring space boys. You can buy space boy biographies, presidential campaign memorabilia, and even space boy merchandise. Take this vintage centenary poster from 2129, a slice of nostalgia just yours for $16.99. Speaking of those we leave behind, I understand you've had a very tragic childhood, is that right? I was the son of some wealthy people from out west. Of course, that was before I knew. There was unresolved debt, alcohol issues, then came the war old sport. I tried very hard to die, but I seemed to bear an enchanted life. And it's your time in the Air Force that got you the space cadetship, isn't it? Naturally. You mentioned being enamored with space ever since you were a boy. Do you have any advice you'd like to share for the young space cadets out there who might be aspiring to follow in your footsteps? Of course, Mike. I'd like to start off by saying that a lot of people nowadays seem to think that being an explorer, going out and discovering new worlds is impossible, that you have to come from an important family or know someone that's qualified for the space program. I'd just like to say that that's not true. If I can do it, anyone can. And of course, that inspiring legacy is the focus of your new feature film, Starry-Eyed with Success. It harkens back to a time when space travel was rare. Do you ever miss the good old days of aerial TV and manual telescopes? Well, of course I do. I mean, who doesn't? When I was a kid, we had this massive backyard and I used to camp out there in a tent, gaze out at the stars with my retractor wheel 260. They don't make them like they used to, that's for sure. What was the inspiration for the movie? Well, I've got a thing for all old cinematography and all the comic side as a kid. That was a big part of my life growing up. Old Robbie the Robot animations, that kind of thing. But of course, with fame comes criticism. There's been allegations that you made your money on the dark side of the moon, trading illegally, isn't that right? Let me get this clear, Mike. I have never had liaisons with the dark side, and since we're on the topic, I'd just like to say a few things about the dark side. Now, there's a lot of rumours circulating that it's a failed state, that the Russians own it, that my company's extracting and smuggling raw material over the border to refine. These just simply aren't true. Sorry, excuse me for clarifying, but the dark side is Russian territory, isn't it? At least, it's controlled by the Russians. It's very much a common misconception, but we own all of the dark side. So the Russians don't own any of it. No, the market's just not big enough, I'm afraid. So let me get this clear. I'll be getting this on film, Jack. So we own all of the dark side, is that right? We do. Well, since that's cleared up, I just want to quickly talk about some of the recent public attention you received for your decision to launch the condo and the natural plenty programs. Some have accused you of neglecting your own people at home, not devoting enough resources to your own national creators of abundance. Well, there's some people out there that follow this manifesto that says that so long as nationalism and moonism exist, we cannot live in peace. In the end, one or other will triumph. A funeral dirge will be sung over the moon or over world nationalism. What I'd like to say is, what are the real differences between the two? Moonism and nationalism. When you think about it, so the question is, can we live with two complementary ideologies in perfect harmony? Of course we can. In your building of the condo, some have accused you of polarizing the divide between the most and least fortunate. What do you say to that? Yes, the condos cost money, but when has anything rewarding come for free? Hard work comes with success. It's the moon dream. Do you agree, though, that you've commercialized space? Oh yes, of course I have. Well, that just about wraps it up for us, I think. I've just got a couple callers on the line here. Sure. Just wondering, Neil, what do you think of the aliens up there? That's pretty much self-explanatory, isn't it? They haven't assimilated to our culture, for a start. I mean, they are what the name suggests. Now, switching live to San Francisco. Hi, Neil. I'd just like to say you're a liar and a manipulator, and what you've done to the moon is sick. Alright guys, that's pretty much it for today. Thanks everyone for watching. That was world's first self-described adventure capitalist and president-elect space personality, Neil McCarthy. Next time we get exclusive authorization to cross the gap at Checkpoint Tuesday and find out what everyone's been asking. What's life like on the other side? Premiere airing. Have you ever looked to the stars and wondered what's out there? That great big jabbing question that has loomed from the vaulted ceiling of our national nursery ever since humanity came alive. That great muse of triads and triptychs that has plagued our nation for generations. Have you ever tried to equate the sum of the mass of the multiverse? It is more than just the sum of its parts. Silver, gold, and platinum, all the colours of the rainbow. The reason we are so hypnotized by the stars is because they are the only fluid permanent roots in the unnavigable soul blackness of time. As humans, we are fixated by our own interplanetary solitude. We project onto the mediums with which we align. We are all fundamentally chaotic beings made of plasma, careening towards the inevitable eclipse, the satiric collapse. There is no difference between the comic and the cosmic. We trawl through film reels for our futures, crystalline portents for our past. There is only the hyperreal and the hyperbole and the great big crater bowled into the dust. From the cradles of universal inception to the inevitable eclipse of time, we will be prisoners, riding on the midnight locomotive to the moon, the spectroscopic spaceship of spatulated stars, the rough, raw horseback of the meteor ride, hurtling towards our cosmic combust. It's looking white-hot bright tonight out here in the desert, in the shifting sands, forecasted seismic storm detected on the airwaves, record levels of radiation on the plains, emerge into the dream state of catatonic ecstasy, merge your plasma with the universal master brain. I count 1,000 UV layers of exothermic heat dilating in the shimmer of the desert mirage. Skeletal skins burst their membrane and disfigure the placenta of invertebrate time. Close-up of plainly clothed man, drinking from the water of life on the surface of the moon. He scoops up the water with a shell, shuts his eyes, drinks in bliss. The moon is like a mother, sustaining and eternal. We salute her craters of plenty, she who provides water to the thirsty and hope to the abject. A new dawn rises on the moon, a new golden dawn of moonism. Alan, we've got a disturbance on the perimeter. Fucking Annie Hamilton. Get it fixed. Here at Mooneyvale, we have the best, highest quality luxury apartments located just outside the city centre, where you can fulfill all your essential entertainment and recreational needs. We're a community here at the condo, and with suites overlooking vistas of the National Crater, what's not to love? Mooneyvale, the lifestyle you've always been looking for. New perfect craters are being built as we speak. Life got you down? Looking to make a change? Try living on the dark side. Our tailor-made communities are safe and affordable, perfect for starting a family or getting back to the place you want to be. I like aerospace jelly. Aerospace jelly for me. I like it for dinner, I like it for tea. A little each day is a good recipe. I like aerospace jelly. Aerospace jelly for me. If you're insecure about your whiteness, try Opal Moonlight's Teeth Whitening Kit. Whiten up your teeth in just 7 days. You're copping a lot of flack for your National Waste Repository scheme. Some have taken to calling the solemn dumping ground the National Crater of Shame. The quarry has gained a reputation for being one of the most polluted locales on the moon's lower atmosphere, producing a cloud of ash you can see from space. Some locals have dubbed it the moratorium. Reports have circulated of people and hapless aliens sighted wandering its dust-filmed surface, searching for meaning in the desolation. The crypt, as it's been nicknamed, has recently caused further controversy after a group of tourists from Earth mysteriously fell in. Wild rumours have also surfaced that the repository is a cover for an asylum for the criminally insane. As the owner of the repository, what do you make of these outlandish claims? Well, we have had a few incidents where staff have fallen into the pit on occasion. However, these are only rare workplace accidents, nothing de rigueur. Rest assured, we would always pay our workers compensation if something like that, God forbid, were to occur. At Space Ace, we are all about safe work practices. As the co-founder and pioneer of the Natural Plenty Initiative, is your ownership of the repository somewhat hypocritical given your current environmental crusade? No, I wouldn't say it is. You've become somewhat of a sensation in your home Space Town. There's even a monument named after you. What do you call it? Propaganda or promotion? Well, I don't see why the two have to be mutually exclusive. Now, I understand you weren't initially that popular when you began your quest to colonize the moon. Here are some letters you received after you launched Sabotagenic 1. Peter writes, "You're right to be getting off the face of the earth." This one's from Nancy. "You're a fake Vosged and an imposter, and you have a colonization complex." If these make you uncomfortable, no, by all means. I love to reminisce over former critics. Right, here's another one from Sammy. She wonders, how do you feel now that you're a moon tycoon? Did you always dream about commercializing space? And another one from a syndicalist who claims you faked your death. Moonism is dead to me. Stop. I should have shot you when I saw you in the street. Stop. I hope your spaceship drops out of the sky. Stop. Starbucks should sue you for negligence. Stop. I hope you eat your space babies and die. Stop. Go fucking die. I like aerospace jelly. Aerospace jelly for me. I like it for dinner. I like it for tea. A little each day is a good recipe. I like aerospace jelly. Aerospace jelly for me.
My Mother Wanda by SOLEDAD MUSK. Soul of Wallaby. Died 2019. AURORA. This is a sacred place. This is like a church. This is a place where we connect and heal and unite as a people. Lydia Thorpe, Wurundjeri woman, speech at the site of the Djabarong Sacred Tree protest. I'll be dead soon. I'm 6 years old. Not old for a wallaby. I was born near here, near these trees. The oldest tree has lived 800 years. Its stories are older still. 800 years. Their words are few. The noise is mostly silence. Silence is the friend of witness. I was born near here. I don't remember much. I have loose memories of warmth, and softness too. I do remember my mother. She was called Nonna. I spent most time in her pouch, sometimes with my head poking out the top. Then, when I grew older, my mother let me out of her pouch. I always came back. Don't go far, little fella, she would say. My mother told me stories her mother told her and her mother and hers. My favourite was Bwala, best fella hunter. In a time of no rain and little food, Bwala the hunter set out with all his children to find something to eat. For a long time he searched, couldn't find a thing. No emus, no kangaroos, no wombats, not even a seed. Just as the children had begun to cry, Bwala spied a great eagle flying overhead. The eagle was headed for a gum tree not too far in the distance, where his children sat crying. Held in the eagle's feet was a fine young wallaby. Bwala reached the gum tree as the eagle began circling slow. Bwala told his children, stay, and he began to climb and climb till he reached the eagle's nest. Then Bwala and the eagle flapped and spat. They snapped and clawed. But Bwala, the tucker thief, took the wallaby and climbed down. Best fella hunter, the children cried as Bwala reached the bottom and laid the wallaby down to light a fire. Everyone sang and laughed. Finally, they could eat. Darkness fell and the fire was ready, but when Bwala returned to the trunk of the gum tree, there was no wallaby. Cheeky little fella, said Bwala the hunter, best fella hunter. He better than me. My mother told other stories too, stories of people and animals. There was the terrifying roar of Big Fella Bunyip, the young girl Wanda who loved all young things like the young dawn and all happy things like yellow and red berries, and Biami who made the world and men too. I know the stories had deeper meanings, but they always ended with, time for sleep now, little fella. Little fella, she would call me. Wallaby, the white fellas call me. Wallaby a bicolour, a poster in a nearby town calls me. That is not my name, let me tell you. Let me tell you. Only the trees know my name. My mother taught me a song of hope. We would sing it together. It was about the dawn breaking, world waking, bright new days. I'm 6 years old, young for a wallaby. I was nearly 1 when I left my mother. It was springtime. With the growth of new grasses and the days growing longer, I placed one long foot after another and never returned. I thought of her a lot at first, especially when it became colder. I longed for the warmth and softness of her pouch. Instead, I returned to the trees and slept in the grasses. I told the story of Bwala the hunter to myself, though perhaps the trees were listening. I visited the trees many times since then. I gave birth to a joey, a boy, a few months after I left my mother. Lying still in the grasses, I watched as the tiny joey climbed his way up to my pouch, using only his front paws. I spent 9 months telling my son of the wallaby that got away from Bwala. I told him about Nonna, Nonna's mother and hers. I told the stories. He listened. I taught him the song of hope. I added something about our children's children and the glad tomorrow. We sang it together. In the spring, my son left me. He placed one long foot after another and never returned.